make sure that those are licensed properly, and that, you know, from a Microsoft audit perspective, that is one area where there's just some risk that you just have to be aware of. You might say, hey, I'm gonna spin up an entire test environment of everything I have in production to do testing. That's a great way to use virtualization, but remember that you have to license it accordingly.
That's a good point. Real quick, Richard, how long does it take to spin up a brand new instance of an operating system?
We have a couple of templates made, and basically what that is where you set up a server, you install all the drivers, all the base applications that you might want on it, and then you mark that basically as a template. We can spin up a new virtual machine based on a template in probably less than 10 minutes. So from the point that I decide, hey, I need a server to do this testing or whatever, to run this application on or whatever, I just need a new server for something, we can have that up and running in production in 10 or 15 minutes or so after I launch it. Then I'm going to go in and tweak it to actually do what I wanted it to do. So
how long did it take the old way?
Well, the old way you would call whoever, Dell in my case, I'm pretty much a Dell shop, or HP or whatever. Let's just say go down to Best Buy and then you would buy your system. So it might take whatever, a week or so, a week or two, just to get the physical server, and then you're still going to install everything. So you're talking, whatever, let's say 2 weeks down to doing 4 or so an hour. So pretty amazing.
So I'd like to open up questions to the audience. Folks have questions for these guys about virtualization. I see one in the back. Do we have somebody that can run a mic? Okay, if you could step up to the mic up here, then you can ask your question up here. That's right, we're going to put you right up here in front.
You didn't know you had to get up here, did you?
You can withdraw your question.
Just for everybody, what level of security is available to prevent an outside source from penetrating virtualization service for a client?
Again, let me give the non-technical point of view. Basically, you have to deploy the same type of security that you would deploy on physical servers. As far as protecting the actual virtualization layer, Brian, you want to do that one?
Yeah, so you still need to do your security hardening best practices. In the case of VMware, the hypervisor is called ESX server. It's extremely small. It's a very, very tiny footprint. In fact, there's a version now that will run just on a memory chip that you can just buy a server. It's called ESXi, and it'll just run on a memory chip. It's I think it's 32 megabytes of code. That's a megabyte, not gigabytes. That's very tiny footprint, extremely low or small security footprint for hacking. To date, there's really no exploited hacks of ESX server itself. Now, there are security patches that have come out. If you get a little more technical, in some of the versions, there is a Linux service console, which is a traditional Linux client or a Linux operating system that is very stripped down. But that is the biggest place that you need to harden, because that's where most of the security attacks will come, or will try to hit. Now, if you look at the flip side, what the industry is doing now is saying, let's use virtualization to actually make our environments more secure instead of introducing a new layer. So some of the things in that area are leveraging this hypervisor, this new layer, to actually act as an area that you can put security measures in. So for example, at VMworld last week in San Francisco, Trend Micro was the first virus scanning company to come out with a product for VMware's VM Safe initiative. And what that is imagine you have 20 virtual machines running on a physical box. Well, instead of putting a virus scanning agent in each one of those 20 virtual machines, you run a virtual appliance, which is just a virtual machine running on that same server, and it does all of the virus scanning for you. So if you think about it, this virtualization layer here, everything has to go through it, both in and out, to get to the virtual machine, so it can actually do the scanning for you. Another example is the EMC division, the security division EMC is RSA. Some of you folks probably heard about RSA. Well, We just recently released a virtualized version of our data loss prevention. So we showed a demo at VMworld where an end user is sitting on a desktop, a virtualized desktop, and they go and send an email that includes a social security number, for example, where, well, the data loss prevention engine grabs that and says, hey, you can't send this. There's a social security number in this email. That's against policy. Well, in the past, you would have to have an agent on every single desktop and on servers to do that. Well, now that DLP, that data loss prevention engine, can just run as a single virtual machine in your cluster, monitoring all of your virtual machines. But at the virtual machine layer, pretty much today, you still need to do your virus scanning unless you're going to go with this new VM safe route. You still need to do your security hardening. And yes, let's not sugarcoat it. You are adding an extra layer in here with virtualization, so you do need to take best practices, but it's inherently much more secure than a general purpose operating system.
Any other questions? Richard?
And I can run the mic, I found out, so if anyone encourages questions, I'd be happy to bring it over to someone.
Can you talk a little bit about the backup on the layer?
Yeah, so the way that we do backup, I kind of covered a little bit about the simplicity where a single virtual machine is represented by just a handful of files. You've got a couple of variety of ways of doing backup. You can do it the traditional way where you've got a backup agent that might run on that particular virtual machine and back it up just like you would a physical server. But there's also specialized backup tools. One that we use is from a company called Vision Core that work in conjunction with it's just designed to back up your virtual environment. So it actually connects directly to that shared SAN storage device and actually pulls those data files off the system to make an independent backup of that entire system as it is. Stores that wherever you want it to. So the great thing about this, similar to what he touched on earlier, was that I'm guaranteed to be able to restore and run that virtual machine if I need to. Run it on a Dell, run it on an HP, run it on IBM, run it on a Sun, whatever is, if it can run ESX, in my case, the virtual VMware's product, I'm guaranteed that machine will be able to boot up and run as it is. Whereas in the physical world, if you back up a Dell server, that server dies and now you need to restore it, but the only machine that you've got to restore it on is an HP. You might have some issues, particularly around with video drivers and storage controllers. Those types of things are going to be more than likely different in the HP environment than they were in the Dell. And that poses a challenge for you to be able to get that machine up and running as quickly as possible. So from a backup and restore perspective, it's significantly easier. One other little great feature that I'll touch on in regard to that is in the virtual environment you have the concept of what are called snapshots. So prior to performing a software application update, you can go into that particular virtual machine and tell it to take a snapshot. And that's literally just like taking a picture of that server as it exists in this particular moment in time. It's almost instantaneous. I mean, it takes maybe, 20 or 30 seconds or so to snapshot a system. You go on and continue to use it as normal. You install your software application update. But let's say that something goes horribly wrong during this update and now the application is no longer available to your end users. Normally, you would then have to go back and reinstall the original version of the application, try to recover the data and all this kind of stuff while downtime is occurring. Since you've taken that snapshot, you can roll back to that snapshot. I'm not exaggerating, in probably about 5 or 10 seconds. That system is as it was when you took that snapshot, down to if, whatever, you had a window open on that server, it's going to be back open on that server. Whatever happened to that system is now recovered back at that moment of time. So it's, I had the occasion actually to use it just yesterday morning, doing some updates, and one went kind of haywire, and it was during production time. That's one thing, I've kind of gotten a little bit sloppier, I guess you could say, of having to worry about doing a lot of updates